Hey, what's up everybody? In today's video we're going to be reviewing the book Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. This book is basically about relying less on your mobile phone. It doesn't really talk about other technology because he really tells you how to use other technology versus using your phone, because the phone is what is really destroying our lives right now. And the subtitle to this book is Choosing a Focused Life in a Noisy World. And if you know Cal Newport, he's written a couple other books, and one of them is Deep Work. And what that is basically what the subtitle talks about is focus, and talking about the benefits of deep focus versus distracted thinking and constantly checking the apps and the internet. And this book gets a little bit more specific with relying less on mobile technology and the apps in that mobile technology. So digital minimalism is, again, about technology in our lives and reducing technology, and specifically reducing your reliance on your mobile device and also the apps on that mobile device. And if you've watched my channel before, you know I've reviewed Cal Newport book, So Good They Can't Ignore You. And I did not like that book, mainly because of the premise in that book was don't follow your passion in giving career advice. And this book is written in a similar fashion. So Good They Can't Ignore You, Cal had a hypothesis, or basically what I would say is like he has these things that he believes, these beliefs, and then he just finds all the evidence he can in those beliefs. He doesn't really look on the flip side. He tries to provide some evidence on the flip side, but not really. And this book is in the exact same format. If you've read one of his books recently, like I have, I read that book recently, then this format will seem like exactly the same as that. And so now that we know Cal's writing style, who is this book for? This book is for people that believes that their phone and then their apps on the phone are destroying their lives, social media. Because if you don't believe that phones are bad for you or that social media is bad for you, you're not going to like this book, because all the evidence he has in here is evidence about how bad our phones and social media are. And he doesn't really back off of that. He provides a lot of evidence in favor of that. So as long as you agree with that and you're trying to improve your life, then this book is for you. And this book is really for you because he provides a lot of solid tips and a lot of people that are actually trying to do this and implement this in their life. Cal starts out this book by talking about the dangers of using a mobile phone and social media and the impacts on our lives. And you really have to think about it, because if you're not programming your own life, if you're not scheduling out your day, coming up with things to do yourself, and you're just looking at your phone all day, then you're going to be impacted by what's on the phone, right? Like that's kind of easy for us to figure out, but none of us really think about it that much. So if you're seeing negative stuff all day, like news or other things like that, then your life's going to be really negative. Another thing he talks about is like the shallowness of our interactions. Like when you're on social media and you're just liking and commenting, it's not really social. It's not really engaging with your friends. And you'll tell yourself, oh, I'm being social, I'm meeting up with my friends. But you're not. You're not actually meeting them. You're not having conversations. You need to have face-to-face conversations. And that's like a tip I'll talk about later. But all these things that we're doing on our phones are just basically destroying our lives and not making it better. And that's what Cal talks about. And he goes on to talk about next, like solitude in our life and how we're all missing solitude. And it doesn't mean isolating yourself and doing harm to yourself, but just like being with yourself, being with your thoughts. And none of us really have that anymore. And I was kind of hit hard by this because I listen to a lot of podcasts, music, and he's like, even those are bad, right? I'm thinking more of social media. I don't really have that much social media on my phone. I'm not into like Twitter and Facebook and checking those on my phone. But podcasts, I love podcasts. And if you think about podcasts and music, when you're listening to those, you're not really thinking, or you're not really soothing yourself emotionally or anything like that. You're just blocking things out and listening to something else, and listening to something else that's not your thoughts. And those can affect your thoughts, right? And your actions, because you don't give your brain enough time to like think for itself. You're letting all these other things enter your brain, even reading, things like that. If you read too much, like reading too many books. But you need some time to just be by yourself, think for yourself, and like you'll probably feel better, right? Because you'll be with yourself more often, and you'll like yourself will be like all you have. So that'll be enough. Like you won't be seeing things that you're missing out on, seeing a bunch of activities that you're missing out on, a bunch of, concerts or movies or activities that your friends are doing, you'll be with yourself and you'll feel more comfortable because that's all you have. But also you'll have like thoughts and other things that you haven't had before, and you'll be able to deal with your emotions since you're interacting with them a lot more. You'll be able to deal with your emotions versus putting them off by using your phone. Because like a lot of times we get a dopamine rush from using our phones. So like you don't realize that every time you pick up your phone that you're self-soothing that way. We need to go back to the old way of being by yourself, and that's what Cal talks about. And he gives a lot of examples of solitude. He talks about Abraham Lincoln, talks about David Thoreau, and the book Walden. He talks about Walden a lot. I mean, obviously, because like Walden is very popular, minimalist, and like being with nature. That's what he's popular for. Being isolated in nature and minimalist lifestyle is what a lot of people like him for now. So he uses that as these great things that can be accomplished while you're not using your phone. And I think that's the biggest thing from this book is like a lot of people think you need a phone for every single thing, and that your life's going to be like, what's your life going to be like without it? And he gives examples of how good it can be without it, but also like how you need to replace things once you ditch your phone. You're going to need to fill that time up. And you can fill it up with like difficult activities. That's what he talks about. He encourages people to like learn a new skill or fix things manually, join groups. And he talks about like the CrossFit movement and how CrossFit movement isn't anything fancy. It's like in warehouses. And I'm in a gym similar to that. But it's like these gyms where it's social activity and you have to interact with people and you become like a community. So it's like you have to drop your phone and do activities that replace it, because otherwise you're just going to go back to your phone. And he has a lot of tips in here, and that's like the one thing I would say this book is really good for is like tips of like how to be a digital minimalist. Again, it's mainly for your phone, and he talks about like go on a 30-day essentially like cold turkey type of thing where you put your phone, or like you don't use your phone as much. You delete all the apps off of your phone, like social media apps, and then after the 30 days you assess what you really need once you come back to it. And he recommends not using social media at all. And if you do, then only use it like on a certain time period. And he also talks about scheduling leisure activities, which would be the time that you use social media or Netflix. Like you got to delete Netflix and all that stuff off your phone too. But if you do have to use it, because we're all going to use it at some point, right? Like we all have those apps that we like to use. So if you are going to use those, then schedule them. And for me personally, like scheduling towards the end of the day, because towards the end of the day is where I struggle the most of like, get tired and sleepy and just kind of want to lay down. And I know laying in bed with the technology is not supposed to be good for sleep, but like a lot of times that's just the way it is, right? So it's just scheduling it. And he recommends that for anything, really, like scheduling it out, because if you schedule the time you use your phone or these apps, then like it restricts the amount of time versus if you just start your night at 6 p.m. and just watch it until like midnight. You need to restrict the amount of hours that you use those things, and you're going to get more accomplished in your life if you do this. Like that's the main reason for me that I'm interested in this book, right? I want to get more accomplished in my life, and it's increasing good habits like the other books I've read and reviewed on here, but it's also decreasing the bad habits. And that's something we learned about in Atomic Habits, is decreasing bad habits. And the phone, if you can decrease that, that's a big one. So a few other tips. He talks about if you can go out more, leave your house and leave your phone at home, then that's a huge one. And I've done that a couple times. Like I sound so lame because it's like I've only done that a couple times, but I've done that a couple times, and you can live without your phone. But another tip is getting one of those older phones like Nokia, those little brick phones. Those are really popular. He says as far as old technology goes, he recommends going on long walks. So go on long walks without your phone and just think things out or just relax. A lot of people don't go on walks anymore. Solitude. He recommends also writing letters to yourself. That one's a little bit, I think that's more of journaling is what he means there, but he goes through his writing letters to himself process, which seems a little bit weird to me. As far as social media itself, if you're gonna go through social media, don't like and don't comment anything. He says that's bad. Instead, like reach out to the person, have a conversation with them. Don't like text as much. It's another thing he really like doesn't like is texting. He's like, you got to reduce the amount you text, like group up your texts, kind of like what a lot of people recommend for email, like where you batch your emails. He recommends like batch texting and not just like constantly checking for a text message and then be like, okay, you know, all those types of things. Don't be constantly looking for your phone. Just batch it at a certain time of the day. Another thing he recommends is having more conversations, like deep conversations. So the people that you would normally like or whatever, so the people that you normally like their content or write a comment on, reach out to them, have a conversation. He gives like an example of this lady who panicked and was like, my friend just had a baby, I have to like this photo. And he's like, no, try something else. And so she ended up getting that person a present instead, and it was a better interaction, and the friend liked it more than they would have, obviously, for something on social media. Another thing he gets into here is like the physical world stuff that I spoke about before, about like tinkering and fixing stuff. And he got this idea from Mr. Money Mustache, who's part of the FIRE movement, the Financial Independence Retire Early movement. And he talks about how he replaced the time he would use on social media or anything like that with things physically, like building stuff or fixing stuff. And Cal really recommends this because he's like, it just satisfies a need in all of us when we do something difficult like that. He just recommends difficult tasks in general. Like me, I would recommend, starting your own business, writing a book, something like that. I don't know about the physical stuff because, I don't live in a house. I live in an apartment. So it's like, it's going to be hard for a lot of us to get out and like build stuff when we don't have backyards and things. But I guess if you have access to that, if you have access to a place where you can build stuff or learn about that kind of stuff, that'd be good too. But I think that was something more personal for him. And like I said before, he mentioned CrossFit. So like join a CrossFit or but something with a group that's socially interactive. The boot camp type gym stuff like CrossFits and other gyms are like normally groups of people coming together for a class versus just going to the gym solo. So that's something else he recommends where you can replace that mobile phone time. So those are a few of the tips from the book. The book is pretty good. I recommend reading it if you're looking to put down your phone more, or just looking of new ideas of like how to get your phone out of your life, how to reduce the impact of your phone. And I think we all are trying to do that, right? We're going to look back at this period of time and be like, man, like we were really like bolted to our phones and we couldn't get away from them. And a lot of us aren't going to be like that in the future. I think a lot of us are going to go on these paths where we have less technology and we connect more, or we use technology in a smarter way and more efficient. And that's what Cal speaks about in this book. So if you're on that journey right now, then I do really recommend this book. It's a very simple read. The format's very similar to other Cal's books. It's exactly the same as his other books. So if you like his books, if you want to reduce your reliance on mobile phones and social media, and you want support for why you should do that, then read this book. It's a great book. So thanks for watching. If you like this content, give it a like and make sure to subscribe to get my other self-help advice and book reviews. Thanks for watching.